Mark, thank you for joining me today. I am Nikki Lunsford, and I'm a part of the Middletown USA study through Ball State, and we find ourselves at Ross Community Center. We just talked to Jackie, your director, and you are the president of the board.
Yes.
So I'm introducing Mark Harmon, former teacher.
That's okay, I can edit it.
Okay. What was your last name?
Flodder.
Flodder. How did I not get that one? So I would like to
I've been called a lot of things. It's all right. I don't care.
He looks like a TV actor. That's
There you
fine.
go. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce to you Mark Flodder, a former teacher in high school, so bless your heart. And he's going to fill in some of the holes of being involved with the Ross Community Center for a long time. So I'm going to run through the same questions and we'll just fill in the holes. So Mark, tell me about your background and life story and how you came to the position of
My
president.
background is I came from a small community in southeastern Indiana and came to Ball State, looking into education to become a teacher. And at the time, it was about 1969. By 1973, I thought, I'll stick around. I can get a job in Muncie. There were 11 openings in my area, and they had just finished the brand new Muncie Central High School, and I had student taught at Southside High School. And I thought, I'll teach for a couple of years, get my master's degree, and then I'll move out of Muncie. I retired from Muncie Southside in 2013, and a lot of students that I had at Southside and worked with over the years had been a part of the Ross Community Center. Handprints were on the wall when they were young kids when I first started coming over. And I was encouraged by a former board member, Jenny Nellis, who used to be the head of the Muncie Public Libraries. And she thought that I might make a board member because of my familiarity in the community. And that was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And over the course of the years, I've worked and I have the ability, since I'm retired, to be a little more in touch with the Ross Center at any time because of the retirement situation. Frees me up and allows me to come in, so it works out really well to be the president of the board right now at this point.
Hands-on position, it sounds.
Yeah.
So how has the organization changed over the past 20 years in your sight?
I would say primarily over the last 20 years, this was a community center for children and young people, and not a lot of emphasis on the entire community. And I think now the focus is to try to incorporate everyone in the community. I know adults came here, but it was primarily geared for anywhere from grade school all the way through high school. And now we're trying to address the entire community. In fact, the international community that's here in Muncie, Indiana. So,
Good. And I've heard that you entice them with card games. What else do you use to entice the rest of them?
With the seniors, there is a bingo program. There is a euchre program that is working right now, and we allow them to have the space here free of charge, and they're just lovely people to come over and have a safe place to come to, as well as a comfortable place to come to.
Very good. So what are the key goals of this organization in your mind, and what challenges is this organization trying to address?
The key goals, if I could lean over and read the mission statement. The mission of the Ross Community Center is to build community by providing and promoting programs, services, and activities for the advancement of education, health, and wellness in our diverse community. So that was adopted 4 years ago, and we had a grant from the Indiana Youth Institute and had a couple of consultants come and help us fill out all the paperwork, the regulations, our forms that we needed, as well as come up with a mission statement that fit our diverse community. And this community is a lot more diverse than it used to be. So that, again, to go back to the changes, as a working area where these were families that worked at the Chevrolet plant across the street, now it's changed to a lot of rental properties, and the community is completely diverse in that aspect. And if it wasn't for the closing of the Chevrolet plant, we wouldn't have been able to purchase both of their vacant parking lots, which has allowed us to expand our sports programs, and with 2 brand new baseball fields, and hopefully more to come as we move through the years.
Very well. So you mentioned the neighborhood. So the neighborhood has changed because of the organization, the Chevrolet that left.
I think the people that were elderly stayed, and the younger people that could move did move, and because of that, it opened up a lot of vacant houses where people can come and rent, and there are pros and cons to that. But it's not the same neighborhood where I think people walked up and down the streets when they worked at Chevrolet and greeted each other because they worked together, they lived together, they went to church together. Now it's a whole totally different, diverse community. And I think that's true of our country. I think with the advancement of social media and everything else, I think people are becoming a little more distant, and it's not the same type of community that we're trying to have here. So it boils down to a safe place to come to, and a place where you can socialize with other people.
So it sounds like you're trying to combat that demon, isolation.
In my mind, yes.
Okay. What challenges have you had in finding staff and expertise for this organization for your programs?
When we were available, or had the availability of funding to hire an executive director, we started off with a program director, and she moved into the executive directorship for a short period of time because we thought it was time to start expanding. We had the funding to be able to expand, and she needed a little more expertise in the area and felt that she needed to move on to a better place. So as far as what her programming was. And then we started doing a series of interviews, and a young lady named Jackie Hanneman came to our door, and in the eyes of the board and most of the people that we work with here in the community, we look at it more as a blessing that Jackie came to work with us,
Right.
because of her fantastic abilities.
Okay. So your budget. Talk about your budget and your sources of funding.
Sources of funding, primarily grants, and I think Jackie mentioned quite a few of those. We did get a grant from Vectran Gas Company, and it was a 2-year grant. They were as generous as they could possibly be for a 2-year grant. So we received it, I believe, mid-year, and worked into the next year with it. And that's in addition to Ball Foundation, the Community Foundation, IU Ball Memorial Health Foundation. I can't think of the Lowe's 812 Coalition. We received a nice grant, and that was a grant in between involving with the 812 Coalition and the Ross Community Center. And as part of neighborhood beautification, there are some trees that are going to be planted. We've worked on a community garden. It's still not finished, but the beginning of that has come along. We've got some funding from George and Francis Ball to help us with the gardens, and we're making a place in the summer where parents can come with their kids, have a playground, comfortable places to sit, have picnics,
Very nice.
that type of thing.
What
A
are some
true
of the-
community center.
What are some of the holes that you have right now in that process?
Probably the biggest one is funding for administration. As with most nonprofits, the dollars are designated for specific purposes and not so much for administration. And we're working through that. We're working with a donor list program now, and programs are coming. And our goal, I think, we started with a series of dinners this year, international dinners from different parts of the world. We started with a German dinner and went through, there was some Venezuelan cooking, there was Cajun Asian cooking, and we provided a few dinners, but our end goal is going to be have an international festival. We're not quite ready to put that out yet. It takes a lot to put on a major event, but we'd like to have a signature fundraiser that is different, that includes all the communities that are involved through Ball State and Muncie, Indiana. You know, there's quite a collection
Sounds like a unique
Greek,
idea.
German,
Sounds like a unique idea.
Hispanic.
Yes. So how is this organization impacted by local, state, and federal regulations, if at all?
I think
Oh.
That's all that was a car.
she's had a cold for the last 2 weeks.
That doesn't
It's hard to
everybody.
get rid of.
Okay. She's getting a little farther. How is your organization impacted by local, state, and federal regulations, if at all?
I think that the regulations that we have to find or that we have to deal with when we're working with Ball State students. We have to deal with Ball State's regulations when we're working with the child care, the educational part of it. We have to adhere to those regulations. And I think it's one of the things that keeps everyone, again, I'll go back to the safety. We try to adhere to the guidelines that are with the different groups that we collaborate with and we work with.
Sounds good. Right. Do you have any, what connections to faith, communities, social service organizations, universities would you add to what Jackie's given us?
I thought about that when I was listening to Jackie's answers, and she was pretty thorough on her descriptions of all the different communities, of course, Revolution and Avondale Methodist Church and Habitat and all the different organizations. I think that there's going to be more of that collaboration as we move down the road. The door is open and we're still looking.
And has that changed over the years?
I think, as far as faith-based, I think it has changed tremendously. The churches that I'm involved with have been looking into the lack of faith. I don't know if that's the right term. I'd say the people that are not going to churches regularly, church involvement has been dropping over the last 20, 30 years. And I think that's a trend. It's not just here in the United States, that's all over the world. And I think, again, anything that we can provide here to encourage young people to look into their own hearts and decide what's right for them, I think that's the route that we have to go. Working with education all the years I did, when a student asked about religion, I was very honest, but there is a separation that has to be held there. We try to be as apolitical as possible here at the Ross Center because we want to encourage everyone to come. Doesn't matter what your beliefs are, what your background is, we want everyone to feel welcome here.
Very good. You triggered something. We really haven't talked about your affiliation with the government here. We talked about regulations and policies, but what about your affiliation with Muncie?
We have a really good relationship right now with the city government. The mayor has been generous to help us along with our baseball program and provide as much funding as they possibly can. Their budgets are really, really tight. And we've gotten assistance with some of our utilities. Up until this last year, the city actually managed the Ross Community Center. And we had to do our, when we bought the parking lots from Racer Trust, which was the liaison for GM and Chevrolet, we had to do a title search to find out who actually owned this property. And it was Muncie City Schools, not the Muncie Community Schools, Muncie City Schools. It was given by the Rose family to Muncie City Schools in 1919.
Rose or Ross?
Rose.
The Rose family.
Park is the sign on the corner of the building.
Okay.
He was a prominent banker and lawyer here in town from what we've learned. And this chunk of property then was given to the city schools. They leased it to the city for 99 years for $1, which was a common way of doing things. The lease was up in 2018.
Oh my.
So
Oh my.
in that area and with the help of people here in the community, we were able to purchase the property from the Muncie Community Schools. And we are totally independent now of anyone. So the city that used to mow the property, we now have to maintain all of that. The city that used to help with our some of our utilities, through the generosity of the mayor, and that could end at any time because of budgets, is helping us with our utilities. And I think it's a pretty good relationship.
Very well. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think the biggest thing would be if you drove around this community right now, you would see that things are starting to happen. There are new townhouses that are being constructed on the back of our property, about 29 of them. The former community schools career center, which had been here for a long, long time, is now being turned into apartments. So we have 29 townhouses that are low income, I believe. Don't hold me to that, but they are leased to own properties where people can have a piece of this community. And that is right here on 8th Street, right behind our brand new ball fields.
Wonderful.
So there's a lot of things happening in the community. Our streets have just been paved. There are sidewalks that are going to be increased. If we can see our final goal, there will be a walking track around the outside of the sports area with the baseball fields so that we can continue to invite people of all ages to come over and exercise and have a park to sit in.
Is there anything like that near here, a place where they can go outside and be safe just to walk?
I think the closest one would be the one park that Ball Corporation built behind their factory on Macedonia and 12th Street.
Okay.
There's a small park there, and of course we're close to the rails to trails, Cardinal Greenway. But right here in this immediate area, the closest place you would have would probably be if you wanted to encroach on Southside Middle School.
All right.
So we're in the right location right now.
Good. Well, this is Nikki Lunsford with Ball State's Middletown USA study. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark Flodder.
Yes.
And I appreciate the work that you folks are doing in this community with the Ross Community Center. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And the date is December 17th.
Okay, and Nikki, I'd like to thank you for coming over and showing the interest enough to interview us and find out what we're all about. So thank you very much.